Navy Blue is a rapper who is affiliated with Earl Sweatshirt. He's amongst the abstract hip-hop crowd, and this new album, I was listening to it a little bit when it came out, listened to it once, then it was released on streaming, so I went back to it, and then went back to it yesterday, and then went back to it today. And let me say, man, this has grown on me loads. Like, this has really friggin' grown on me. So you guys may have noticed I've not been totally huge on this style of hip-hop over the past few years. It's definitely started to get a decent amount of attention, especially with hip-hop nerds in online music communities. We're seeing a really huge growth for artists like Mike. Mavi last year had an album that I thought was pretty good actually, but a lot of people loved that, man. A lot of people loved it. A lot of people friggin' loved that shit. And he's still really young, and it was only a debut album, so like that's pretty impressive for an artist to get that much attention so early on. I guess this new album, I was sort of expecting more of the same, which may be a bit of a negative way to go into an album, but like I said, the more I listened to it, the more these instrumentals just really started to like reach out to me in a weird way. Like, these are really strong tracks in terms of production. Like, there are so many beautiful moments with the way it's recorded. It's obviously got that lo-fi aesthetic in the way that some rap songs had, and even the ways some of the tracks are structured, I think, are similar to that album too. It's a bit of a weak comparison because people always use it as a comparison these days, because obviously Earl is by far the most famous rapper to be doing this style, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to compare it to that album, really. I mean, you guys may remember it was one of my favorites of 2018, and then made my decade list as well in like the 80s, 90s region. It's obviously high praise to reference that album with albums like this. But I think Navy Blue just brings this really somber tone to the tracks. There's more of like a conversational style to his music in a very different way to someone like Mike or someone like Mavi for me. It's extremely clear early on that Navy Blue has lost his father, and he's making lots of references to his mother throughout this album. It's really like heartwarming listening to his lyrics, honestly. The way he references his mum so much, I really like that. Like, the way that she just kind of comes up in most of the tracks to show like his like just infectious amount of love for her and his appreciation for her, and how he says on one of the tracks he can't let her down, and then later on as well he's talking about how he's in his mum's house and like his father isn't there, and he's just sort of like wondering where he is, that kind of like loss of that father figure just like completely like overcoming him. And again, the way these tracks, man, are just so beautifully put together, like simultaneously bleeding, that repetitive piano chord. And, oh, that shit just like really sticks, man. It's so good. It's just a beautiful sound, and the way it's looped over and over again doesn't get boring because it just sounds so bloody good. Vocal sample on Life's Riddle, the car feature that comes in later on too. I feel like we're gonna get a car album at some point later in the year, because it's been a couple of years since the Hermit and the Recluse album that he gave us, and I feel like Car might have been a bit of an inspiration for this album too. That just like very much like sit down, have a chat, talk about the way things are, the way that Car does on his albums is very much apparent on this album too. On 22 is honestly one of the best beats I've heard all year in terms of hip-hop tracks, and the way he's flowing on this track too. Jesus Christ, man, he really up levels his flow on this one. Like, it's a completely different tone to the rest of the album, but it still has that like dirty lo-fi aesthetic that the rest of the album has too. So it's not like a complete like step away from everything else. It still fits really nicely into the album, but it's just so good hearing him have a bit more of this like energetic pulse. I did mention the car feature too on this track, titled In Good Hands. There's this hopeful tone to it as well, the way he keeps saying how like he's in good hands. I'm sure it's a reference to the fact that, he's been left alone without his father, with his mother, but like, you know, he knows everything's good. He knows he's got the right person around him, and maybe it's even a reference to like angels or something. Perhaps there's some kind of religious imagery here too, in the sense that, you know, he's in God's hands, maybe in the right hands in that sense. And I do love it the way at the end of the album you get this outro with this spoken word piece. It's a female voice. I'm going to assume it is his mother speaking, and she's talking about how grateful she is. So even after all of this throughout the album, the way he's, you know, talking about how you know, he wants to be there for her, he wants to protect her, and she's just at the end saying like, yeah, she's grateful for everything, you know, everything that's gone on, maybe being left alone without a husband. She's still hopeful for the rest of what's to come, and I really like the way that their album ends like that. It's just got such a, it's got such a hopefulness to it that I really appreciate. Definitely way more to unpack with the lyrics, I'm sure, but like just listening to this from front to back, it's so short as well. It just doesn't really overstay its welcome at any point. You know, it's just such a soothing listen. The production, man, some of the best production I've heard in hip hop all year. Like I did say in my Joyner Lucas review yesterday that I don't think hip hop's having a particularly strong year, but every now and then you come across albums like this, and you do kind of get that little spark of brilliance, because it isn't the most accessible, you know, upfront hip-hop album you'll ever hear. It's very low-key, but like when you sit with it, I mean, again, like I said, it's been out a while now, 2 months I think. It's been out 2 months today, I think it was February 2nd, but like just sitting with it that for that period of time, you really do start to unpack some of the beautiful moments. And yeah, I think this will stick with me most of the year because of just how well crafted it is. The navy blues lyrics as well, very, very interesting to listen to. So I'm just happy with this one. I think this is a great album. Stellar production all around. I think it's an 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. It wasn't at first. It was honestly not that impressive to me at first, but I think the more I gave it listens, the more I became appreciative of what was going on. So I'm quite happy. This is definitely an early album in 2020 in which I've kind of done a 180 on, which is pretty cool because that happens every now and then. And yeah, navy blue, check this out, man. This is really good. Thank you for watching my review. Hopefully you've listened to this album, so I would like to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you think it's great, if you don't think it's great, let me know. Thank you for watching my review. Have a good day and bye.